Okay, question 35, we're going to work with some tables. Consider the currency exchange table. This is a little table you like to utilize. So it's basically telling us when I want to change USD to USD, it's just 1 USD is equal to 1 USD. So you can see all of these are just 1, obviously. Now, if I want to change USD to GBP, I change it. It's going to be $1.64. So 1 USD dollar will be equivalent to $1.64 GBP. Okay. Now, as I said, you don't have to really know what all these are, as long as you know what this table indicates. Okay, so that's what everything is. Now you can see A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to J. We don't have these values, so that's what we're going to find. So let's start with A. Find the values correcting to 2 decimal places, starting with A. We want to change GBP to USD. How are we going to do that? So we know how to change from USD to GBP. 1 USD is equal to 164 GBP. To get GBP, it will simply be the other way around, 1 over 1.64, which is 0. Something like that. You get something like that in your calculator, and just round it to 2dp, it will be 0.61. So that's what you plug in into your A. Now let's try B. Find the values again. So for B, we want to know 1 CAD to equivalent to how much USD. Now you can see here, USD to CAD is 1.04. So 1 USD buys 1.04 CAD, which means if I want to go the reverse, we do exactly the same as part A, 1 over 1.04, which is that, 2dp, that's going to be it. So just plug that into your B. C is over here. So we want to know how much CAD is to GBP. Now GBP to CAD is 0.64, just the reverse again, just the inverse again. Just calculate it, that's that, 2dp, put that in your calculator and you can just put that back in the box there. Now D, we want to know how much 1 euro, so EUR is 2 USD. So I want to know how much USD I can buy with 1 euro. 1 USD buys 1.43 EUR. So it's going to be the inverse again. 1 over 1.43. Calculate it using a calculator, round it to 2 decimal places. And here guys, make sure I'm pretty sure you all know how to do this one, but it's 2 decimal places. But because the next number is 9 and you have to round this up, so that becomes 70. So make sure it's 0.70. So you got to stick the 0 when you round it to 2 decimal places. EUR to GBP, that's what we want. And do we have GBP to EUR? Yes, we do. So it's just the inverse again, 1 over 0.87. Plug that in your calculator. That's what should appear on your calculator screen. 2 decimal places, plot that in. F, okay, we want to know EUR to CAD. Now, do we have CAD to EUR? CAD to EUR is 1.37. The inverse is what we need to do, 1 over that. Calculate it, 2dp, plot it in. Easy stuff. Now we just got a little bit more to go. Let's do G. And I think you guys can try the rest. Have a go if you can, because we want to know now USD to AUD, which is Australian. So do we have AUD to USD? AUD to USD, we have 0.93. So again, it's the opposite, which means we need to do the inverse. So 1 over the 0.93, plug it in your calculator and correct it to 2 decimal places. So it should be 1.08. Put that in there. And H, this time we want this one, GBP to AUD. Now ask yourself, do we have AUD to GBP? AUD to GBP, 1.53. So it's going to be the inverse again because it's the other way around. 1 over 1.53, plug it in your calculator and round it to 2 decimal places and plot it in. 2 more to go. I'm pretty sure you guys can try this. Have a go, guys. CAD to AUD. Okay, CAD to AUD. Do we have AUD to CAD? AUD to CAD, 0.97. Inverse it. And then calculate it, 2dp, plot it in. So last one, everyone's going to be telling me how to do this one. EUR to AUD. Do we have it? Do we have AUD to EUR? AUD to EUR, yes we do. We have 1.33, so it's going to be for J, 1 over 1.33. Calculate it, plot it in your calculator, round it to 2 decimal places. Should be 0.75. So plot the last box, that's the end. Very pretty diagram, isn't it? It's a table full of all our currency exchange rates. Okay, so if you have this, you can convert all these countries to one another. All right, now we're going to look at the next one, which is K. Okay, so we still have to look at the box here, the table, but the question's a little bit different. Find how much worth CAD 300 is in EUR. Correcting to the nearest unit. So we want to know how much CAD 300 buys in the EUR exchange rate. CAD to EUR. CAD to EUR. So 1 CAD buys 1.37 EUR. CAD equals to EUR times 1.37 because, watch this, I'll show you how this comes about. 1 CAD, so I'll just call it CAD1 over, we'll use the ratio. So 1 CAD buys 1.37 EUR. So EUR 1.37. But we want to know how much CAD 300 buys in euro, say X. You can get rid of the units if you like. So again, we do cross multiplication. So X times 1 is X. We do CAD times that, which is here. CAD 300 times EUR 1.37, exactly what they have here. So all you need to do now is multiply 300 by 1.37, and that will be 411. Okay, 411. So that CAD 300 will buy you euro 411, sorry. All right, L. Find how much worth USD 200 is in GBP. If you think of it a bit more simply, you can see that 1 USD buys 1.64 GBP. So 250 USD would just be that times 250. So that's what I'm going to do. USD 250 times will be equal to GBP 1.64. And therefore it's just going to be 1.64 times 250, which becomes 410 in GBP. Okay, the next one. Find how much euro 210 is in AUD. Okay, Australian. Correcting to the nearest unit. 1 euro is equivalent to, where is it? Over here. 0.75 Australian. 210 euro would just mean that times 210, isn't it? So that's what I'm going to do. Euro 210 times Australian 0.75. Just times those two numbers together, and the answer is 158. And how much worth GBP 156 is in euro? Let's see how much 1 GBP is in euro. So GBP is 1 GBP to euro is 0.87. Make sure you get the right box. To get 156 GBP, just times that by 156. So 156 times 0.87 will get you 136 in euro. Find how much worth euro 124 is in USD. So 1 euro in USD, where is USD? Oh, here, sorry. 0.70. 1 euro buys 0.70 USD. So to get 124 euro, just times your 0.70 by 124. And that would get you 87 in USD dollars. All right. P, how much worth AUD 300? 1 AUD buys 1.33 EUR. To get 300 of those, you just multiply that by 300. So 1.33 times 300, which will get you 399 in euro. Okay, Q. This one is a little bit different type of question, gets a little bit more intensive. Watch this. It is found that AUD1, so 1 AUD is exchanged for 1.22 NZD. This one's a new currency introduced, so it's New Zealand dollars, but it's not on the table. So we're going to try to work this out. Find how much worth New Zealand 400 is in USD. 1 Australian dollar is equivalent to 1.22 New Zealand dollars, okay? So what I'm going to do is write that down. AUD1 equals 2 NZD 1.22. Right? I just wrote exactly what they told me there. What's the relationship between Australian dollar and USD? You can see that 1 Australian dollar is equivalent to 0.93 USD. So I can say AUD1 is equivalent to USD 0.93. Because this is equivalent to 1 Australian dollar and this is also 1 Australian dollar, I can put this directly in there because it's exactly the same. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to put that in there. So USD 0.93 equals to New Zealand dollar 1.22. Can you see that? What should I do, guys, if I want to calculate 1 New Zealand dollar, if I want 1 NZD, what should I do? See, this is 1.22 NZD. So I've got to divide both sides by NZD 1.22. Because I know that 1.22 divided by 1.22 is 1. So if I divide this side by NZD 1.22, I'll show you over here. That's just that. I'll just write it again. 0.93 over NZD 1.22. And this is just cancels out, just becomes 1, right? So it's NZD 1. Can you make sense? This is the key part, guys. Can you see how I got that? Please understand this before we move on. So we want to know how much worth NZD 400 is in USD. 1 NZD is this much. If I want to calculate 400 NZD, I just have to multiply both sides by 400, right? That's what I'm going to do. 400 of NZD will be this ratio, which I've got here, times 400 New Zealand dollars. Times them all together, so times 400 by this fraction here. So you just basically only got to work with the numbers, guys. Don't worry about this the units in front. So 400 times 0.93 over 1.22 is USD 305. That's what you got to do. I know it's a little bit long, but this is the background to this. So we're going to try something similar because it again involves 3 different currency rates. So it is found that Euro 2.5 is exchanged for New Zealand 3.85. Find how much worth Canadian 200 is in New Zealand dollars. So it tells us that Euro 2.5 is equivalent to NZD 3.85. Now let's calculate 1 euro. So it's 2.5 euro in this case. So we're going to divide by Euro 2.5. So this side will just become 1. And this will become NZD 3.85 over Euro 2.5. So this is 1 euro. Now that's 1 euro in New Zealand dollars. Now we can say 1 Canadian is 1.37 euro. So right over here, Canadian 1 is equal to Euro 1.37. Now if I want to calculate 200 Canadian, I would multiply both sides by 200 Canadians, right? So this will become 200, and this will also, we have to multiply by 200. Can you see that? But I want to change Canadian to New Zealand. And you can see that Canadian 200 is this much euro. This is in terms of euro, okay? You can say that this is 1 euro, but if I want this much euro, I would have to multiply this by the exchange rate, isn't it? Because 1 euro is equal to this much New Zealand dollars. So if I want this much euro, I'd have to multiply that by this lot. So that's the answer, guys. Euro 1.37 times Canadian 200, which I have here, and I multiply it by the exchange rate of the New Zealand dollar. That's this little ratio there. Can you see that? It's very, very confusing here when you mix up all these exchange rates, but watch carefully. That much times the ratio. And then you just multiply all the numbers together. Well, you gather all the numbers together and you divide by the 2.5, and you should get New Zealand 422. So can you see that? All of that converts Canadian 200 to New Zealand dollars, 422. Make sense, guys? If you don't, I want you to fiddle around with the stuff that I did on the board and try to understand it before we move on, because sometimes when it has one more exchange rate involved, it gets a little bit confusing. So that was some currency exchange rates.